Hello, and my name is Paul Cisse, and I'm the founder of the National Diversity Awards. And it's a great pleasure to have such an amazing array of winners and shortlisted nominees to interview over the next couple of months. Today is no exception with National Diversity Awards winner Befriend, who are a charity that helps people from the older generation, connect and be friends with lots of people that feel isolated within today's society. And especially with COVID going on and various other things, it's really, really vital work that these people do. Today, I've got Mike Niles, and you're going to introduce yourself first about what you do and what you do within the organization. And if you could give us a brief overview of what Befriend actually is. And today we're just going to have a really informal chat about their services and maybe how people can support Befriend as well moving forward. So how are you doing today, Mike?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you for the opportunity to chat to you. So Befriend is a charity. It's relatively young. It started in 2017, and the aim is really simple. It's just to reduce social isolation that is experienced by so many older people in and around where we live, just stuck in four walls. Maybe they don't have the ability to get out and about as much as they used to, or the confidence. And we just pop in, have a cup of tea and a chat, and just make sure they're not on their own. And especially over the last few years, like you just mentioned, with the pandemic, it's been so important to make sure that no one is facing it on their own. I mean, we've all struggled, right, at different points. And, if you happen to be older and less able to get out, it's been so important to connect people and communities. So, yeah, that in a nutshell is kind of what we do.
Well, you've kind of been a little bit kind to yourself because you've supported since 2017 over 1,200 older neighbours and delivered over 13,500 hours of social connections per year. I suppose that's a little bit more now since the awards in itself. And actually, when I was doing the editing for the videos, it really struck me how lonely some people actually are. I think there was one woman on there that had lost her husband and of many years, and there was no one else to turn to, and everybody else had died around her, and she just felt really isolated. So your services are really vital. Have you got any other kind of good stories that you can share with us, and how and what the positive outcomes are of your organization?
Yeah, we hear them every week, so it's so nice to hear how in that situation we have that a lot, where someone's partner has passed away, or they may have moved to a new area where they don't have as many connections, and it's quite difficult to just all of a sudden make new friends and feel like you've got a support structure around you. So it's so nice to hear that feedback that just getting together once a week, and something as simple as like a befriender popping in for a cup of tea and a chat, it almost changes psychologically, it changes something, knowing that someone cares and that someone actually is looking out for you. Like, I don't know about you, but there were times during the pandemic where you spend so much time at home. I think we've all had a bit of a taste of what it is like to be restricted in going out and seeing people, and that's kind of the normality, unfortunately, for a lot of older people. And so the feedback is, we've had people talking about it changing their lives, saving their lives in many instances. Many people have got different, difficulties with their mental health because of it, whether it be anxiety or worse. And so it's surprising still to hear how much it changes people's lives, but it's also so motivating to know that just a little thing like a cup of tea and a bit of company every week can make someone feel so much more confident and so much more able to change their own life, if you know what I mean. Once you get in a spiral of that loneliness, it's quite difficult to get out of it. So it's sometimes just that catalyst that they need to sort of, kick back into gear, really.
Exactly. And again, when I was editing the videos, we've got the lonely people that you've saved lives, as you quite rightly said, but there's the happiness of certain of the older generation just connecting together and just that social interaction. And actually very funny. I remember doing work experience when I was in school at an old people's home, and I absolutely loved it. You get so much banter and so much wisdom from people of that generation. There's so many amazing stories of what they've lived through and stuff like that. But I'd like to know first, what started Befriend, and what was the very beginning journey like?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Doncaster, and I moved and I worked in London for a few years, and I did it as a volunteer. I was in London, I was living in Hackney, and I was very conscious that I was like going to the local market and buying a Scotch egg for £5 and being all hipster. But then you're also living alongside communities that have been there for generations, and the two never sort of interact. So I wanted to volunteer and sort of speak to someone who had roots in the area kind of thing and get to know the area a bit better. So I volunteered, and then a few years later left London and looked at Doncaster, and there just was nothing similar, like nothing community related supporting all the people. So thought, right, let's try and help a few people, let's give it a go. And then it kind of snowballed from there. And honestly, the surprise was, and a really good surprise, is how many people sort of said, when they saw it, said, I want to do that. I want to pop in and visit a neighbour. And it's an easy volunteering thing, because it's just a cuppa with someone who lives around the corner, right? So, and similarly, like you were just saying with the social clubs, we do social clubs every week. So it's just a get together. We do it all based on random stuff, but it's all based on theory and like well-being. But it's like we do graffiti art sessions, and we do tattoo design workshops, and we do, learning the Charleston and all sorts of random stuff. And like you said, the hilarious stuff you hear, and the dirty jokes they tell you, and just generally, it's just so uplifting and so meaningful. And I think one of the important things is, it's often, when you get to a certain age, you're not heard as much, and you can be stuck behind four walls, but you are such a key and integral part of our community still. And like you say, the wisdom and the stories and just an understanding of where we've come from as well. And it's so important that doesn't get lost.
So when you befriend, obviously, then you may be able to find out, if there's any kind of issues that they may have as an individual. So obviously, with electric gas going up, that's going to keep you really busy, because so for some people on pensions, it could be either eat or have some heat, isn't it? You know what I mean? And so, do you offer any other services apart from just being friends, or do you have partners that you can point them towards as regards to any help they may need?
Yeah, often it's linking in with other partners. We're kind of the ears on the ground for most people. Like the nature of them being isolated tends to mean that not many people are interacting with them. Like maybe they don't have as many links in with the local authority or with health services or whatever. So having just a friend who can tell them, oh, you need to be giving this person a call, or here's the number for this services. We've had a lot over the last few years with everything going digital. So banking going digital, post office closing down, etc. And having befrienders there, just someone who can walk them through some of the processes. Many people in some of these professions don't necessarily have the time, to dedicate to one client or customer. So that's been so important. But yeah, I mean, the phrase you just said, sometimes people choose between eating or heating, is so true. And in the areas we work across South Yorkshire, it's really tough times. So we're sort of there as an organisation to kind of direct them in, here's the support you can get, and here are some grants you can access, and here are some advice organisations that will help you. But yeah, I guess it's been difficult over the last few years, and I don't see that changing, like you said, with some of the things that are coming in now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right, with technology moving so fast, it can be really, really hard for the older generation to actually keep up. And they a lot of people still do it the old way. They go in the post office, and they still want to get cash out from the bank with the checkbook and use checks and stuff like that. And all them services are actually getting deleted now, and it can be quite a daunting place for someone from an older generation to actually get used to using mobile phones, laptops, and in the world of such change, it can be really difficult. I completely agree. So obviously, as an organisation, you've been on since January 2017, and then you got notified that you were shortlisted for the National Diversity Awards. How was that received at first? What did that mean to you, just to be shortlisted?
A massive surprise. And I think a lot of the organisations who were shortlisted, and we're kind of in our heads quite small. We're working in the local community on the ground every day in localities, like small areas. So to get a notification that the national awards are interested in shortlisting you is quite a surprise. As a staff team, we discussed it in the team meeting, like as soon as we found out, and we were kind of like, what does this mean? Like, how do we promote this, or how do we? First of all, we were like, how do we get votes? Like, we didn't know. It was out of our control. But yeah, I mean, it's so nice to have that recognition, and I know we say this and it makes it sound like it's just a throwaway comment, but honestly, we were sort of saying just to be shortlisted, and you see the shortlist, and you know the people in all the other categories, just to be shortlisted is that recognition of what you're doing, and that someone else from the outside, neutral, has seen it and said you're doing something really good and you deserve to be recognised for it. And I think that more than anything was just a huge boost, and a huge boost for the team. And you know, we promoted it on social media, so volunteers were sort of getting excited about it as well. I know a lot of them tuned in on the night. So yeah, it's just a total surprise, but also such a nice boost.
And obviously, you got the call from ITN News as well, and you were showcased on ITN News, which was phenomenal. I did see the piece on there. You know, how was that for you guys?
It was so funny. We were doing a mime session actually that day at one of our clubs. So, you know, like doing, and so it was quite a fun one to come along to. And, you know, I think the news team came and met like a volunteer and an older neighbour, and they were loving it. They were like, you know, feeling like they were in the spotlight, and have you got my good side and stuff. So just like, you know, you're talking to someone, I think the lady who was in it is in, I don't want to give away her age, but I think she's in her late 80s. And you think that's like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's come in her 80s and she absolutely loved it. And it's just good that we can be part of that experience for her as well. You know, her family live outside of the area, so they got to watch it on TV, and you know, just to watch their mum talking about this kind of stuff on national TV. It was just so nice. So yeah, an opportunity that really doesn't come along every day. So hopefully we sort of grabbed it with both hands. Most of it.
And then obviously over the night, the grandeur of the events, and there was quite a lot of celebrities there as well. And what was it like when you actually was called that you'd won?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, when you walk into that cathedral, honestly, the lighting, the layout, it looked a little bit like Hogwarts. It was just beautiful. The tables laid out, everything looks so, and there's a red carpet and stuff, so far removed from your day-to-day life. And I think that's something that's credit to you guys. Like, it really does take you away from the day-to-day of what you do in the community, and gives you that one moment of, I don't know, recognition, and that moment that you don't feel like you belong in that kind of environment, but obviously you've made it that you do, which is amazing. And then, yeah, you see all the list of nominees, and see the list of nominees for all the categories, and you're like, wow, this is like some awesome people across the whole of the UK doing, you know, ridiculously amazing stuff. And then our category came out, and we'd obviously read who was in our category beforehand, and you're like, each one of them is incredible, doing such different stuff with different, and ours is the age category, so there were people doing stuff with young people, other people with old people, you know, and all ages in between. And you just think it's kind of a shame that someone has to be a winner and the rest don't win, isn't it? Because everyone's equally has equal merit. But yeah, being in that room was just so surprising. Like, you sat on tables next to people you recognise off the telly, and you know, people from organisations that are sponsoring, and just so passionate about what's going on the night. And then yeah, we got called up as the winners, and I think myself and my colleague who were there were just like mouths open. We happened to be on a table with the Open University, and they just looked at us, and they saw us, just the shock on our face. So yeah, it was just honestly like such a surprise, but such a real honour, and honestly a privilege. I think I said it on the night, like, such a privilege to be in the room and spend an evening with so many people from so many walks of life across the whole of the UK, all doing awesome stuff in their communities. And you know, how often do you get that opportunity to have conversations and chat and share stories with people of a similar mindset kind of thing?
Absolutely. And I think one of the beauties, obviously, I get to talk to everybody. I walk around the tables and congratulate everybody. And, you know, as you say, you got everybody from all across the UK, from every strand of diversity, and some tables that have literally every strand, someone from a disability background, LGBTQ, some are older generation, from a religious background, all in one room, and they're just celebrating who they are. They are winners, obviously, but, you know, everybody's just happy to be there, and we get that time and time and again. But actually, when I know the judges, it's not an easy thing to make somebody a winner, but they do it with such passion and such genuine kind of incentive to do the right decision for the winner. That it's a real big feat that you actually do win a National Diversity Awards, because there's so much competition out there. Even just a shortlist is just a hard decision, but to win, you must be doing some amazing work. So, Mike, how many volunteers do you actually have then?
So we currently have around 800 volunteers, and each of them will spend, approximately an hour a week popping in and visiting someone near them, or taking them out. We have people going out on day trips and going out for coffee and all this kind of stuff. And then we have a few extra volunteers who help with social groups and getting people together in their community. So it's quite an operation, and we've only got a really small team. So I think full-time equivalent, I think we've got maybe 5 people. And it covers us, geographically, South Yorkshire is huge. So it's quite a lot. But honestly, without volunteers, without, Joe Public in the community just saying, I've got an hour a week, our project will be nothing. So we really genuinely mean, like, when we were awarded this, the trophy's done the rounds around all our social groups, all the volunteers have got to see it and grab it. And, so it's totally shared with all the volunteers.
So how because obviously we like to work with our partners and sponsors, and, how could organizations, do you feel, could help you? So some of, organizations like corporate organizations and public sector, private sector, how can they help you as an organization? Obviously there's the volunteering aspect, but is there any other aspects that they could help you as well?
Yeah, so many, honestly. I mean, I think you immediately think of charities and corporates and like, oh, just give us some money. And sometimes that's obviously helpful, but not always the most helpful. So, organizations have got such diverse skill sets within their business, right? Whether it's finance, HR, whatever. And charities often don't have the staff bespoke for those roles. So it's so helpful when they volunteer their hours, not just doing the befriending like we do, but actually volunteering their hours in their specialism, because we don't have that in-house skill set, if you know what I mean. So that would be a really obvious way to help. And I know a lot of organizations give like some volunteer days where they'll go out into the community and maybe do something in school or elsewhere. And we often have that as well, where they give an hour, they use their day over a few weeks and go and visit someone or come to a club and help out, or help design a session, in their area of specialism or their business type. So there's loads of ways. And honestly, like, these businesses are in communities, right? They employ local people. Yeah. They trade with local people and have customers locally. So many good businesses really want to engage in the community in this way as well. Yeah. So it's been so good to see, and especially over the last few years, I think it's more acute. People are more acutely aware that it's such an important part of business. So it's been really nice to see.
Absolutely. So obviously you won the National Diversity Awards. I can use some leverage and funding and various other things. But what's next for Befriend? What's the future plans for yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, we don't see ourselves. I mean, the issue is so massive, right? You think of the issue of loneliness, and particularly around older people, it's so huge that I don't know if you're ever going to 100% solve it, across the country, but also across the world. So we don't have like huge plans of like, right, we're going to take over the country or take over the world and expand. But what we want to do in the area we're in is just do it really, really well. And yeah, you're right. Winning an award just like this allows us to sort of say, we've been recognised. We're not just telling you that what we're doing is important. This has been recognised elsewhere. And it gives that confidence to organisations, whether it's funders or corporate partners or anyone else getting involved, that actually what you're doing is important and it's been recognised as important societally. So it really does give you that boost and that confidence to go forward, I think, and say, you can stick it on your email signature and you can say it in conversations on your presentations or bids or whatever. So it just gives that real extra bit of confidence and a boost to shout about what you do, I think.
Yeah, and I also think, the corporate social responsibility, I think lots of organizations concentrate on the younger generation and, youth and so on and so forth. But actually, these people have worked for organizations all of their life. And let's not forget about these people that have done so much service for so many organizations across the UK. And I think it should be an added benefit to CSR to, support the older generation and organisations like yourselves.
I totally agree. And, without being political or anything, older people are often sort of written off in many cases, whether it's in public policy or whether it's investment. And don't get me wrong, like, investing in young people is so important, and the longevity of that impact on society is huge. But, like you just said, we can't just get to a certain age. We're all going to get there, right? Hopefully. And we can't just get to a certain age and then just be, left in the long grass type thing, just to fend for ourselves. So I think it's so important that we still engage with that age group and intergenerational. So making sure young people interact with old people and learn, how things were different and how things have happened in the past, because that's how you improve things in the future, right? Yeah. And I think one thing kind of, there's so much negativity at the moment about, about everything basically in the news. But I think one thing in that room, it wasn't just in that room that there was so much diversity and so much acceptance and understanding and appreciation of each other's differences. I do think that is society-wide. I just don't think it's always as seen. I think the things you hear about and the things that are in the news or the things that are loudest are the negative stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think what was in that room was so positive, such a positive experience to be there. But I do think that is reflective of society in general. It's just, you don't always hear it, if you know what
exactly.
I mean.
I completely agree. That's kind of how, it's the only place where I've been really where, you've got every strand of diversity and everybody from different places. And you're all clapping. It doesn't matter if you're from a different sexual orientation, if you're from a different age group, if you're from a different religion, it just doesn't matter there. There's no bias whatsoever. And everybody's just congratulating everybody else because they are just fantastic people. And that's kind of how society should be and how it should continue to be, instead of all this negative division all the time. I completely 100% agree. So obviously you went through the nominations and the National Diversity Awards, and the nominations are opening very soon. They may be open by the time this video goes out. But what advice would you give to others thinking about going for these awards?
I think if nothing else, just try to get to go to the cathedral, because it's such an amazing event. But no, I just think, what have you got to lose? Like, if you're doing amazing work in your community, and there's so many categories, right? So you guys have tried to get a category for every different type of community activity or social change work.
Yeah.
Get your nomination in, because even to be nominated or shortlisted it's such a recognition. And I think the thing is, like, didn't you have something like 50,000 applications or something crazy?
53,000, I think, all in all. Yeah.
So obviously you can't shortlist everyone, but I think just to put your name in the hat, and even if you don't get shortlisted, doesn't mean your project isn't worth it. It just shows how much amazing stuff is going on. But if you were to get shortlisted, if you were to be able to go to the awards, I just think it's such a one-off opportunity to be in such an amazing group, in amongst such an amazing group of people, in a beautiful venue, in a beautiful city. Just to have that one moment of, like, recognition away from the day-to-day work of what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? Community groups that go do the day-to-day, and often they don't want the recognition, they don't ask for the recognition, but I'm sorry, but it's just nice to get a pat on the back sometimes and saying, congratulations. And I think one of the beautiful things about the awards, whether you're being nominated or you're shortlisted or you're a winner, is that we design the sites to a way where people can write nice stuff about what you do as an organization and how much you've impacted them. So whether you are shortlisted or not, people are still telling you, fantastic work, thank you so much, you've saved my life. We hear that a lot, or you've helped me tremendously in my community and what I've been going through, or various other things like that. So and that's a really positive aspect, because I think, again, people don't, in this day and age, don't tell people really nearly enough about how much they've helped. And so that's a great way to get people to say, thank you, and keeps them going as an organization, whether you've been shortlisted or not, to saying, well, actually, I'm doing vital work and this is vital services. And I do implore every government organization to invest more in communities and stop leaving us in the lurch and, leaving us to just do what we're doing, because you are the backbone of British society. So from myself and all the people at the National Diversity Awards, we'd like to thank you for your service to society and your legacy that you're leaving behind. and the amount of people that you're helping in society as a whole. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much.
Well, I thank you. That's really nice to hear. And I would, reciprocate it, because, some of the people who run these organizations, night and day, round the clock, weekends, evenings, mornings, work their absolute backsides off for this. And, you go through the ups and downs emotionally as well, personally. It drains you. And these awards are opportunity. And sometimes they might come at the perfect time for some people who are on a low ebb, who are just exhausted and drained, and and so to be nominated for something like this and shortlisted might give them that boost to be like, back on it.
Yeah.
And so, credit to you guys, and credit for, for shining a light on some people who ordinarily might not get that. So yeah, thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And listen, I hope you have a prosperous year ahead, and for the vital service that you do to all the older people, the older generation, and I wish you all the best in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.